income producing assets. In fact, Daniel Priestley, in his book, Key Person of Influence, he says, income follows assets. So the more assets you have, the more income you have that can follow those assets. So I'm going to show you how, I discovered this principle. It's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. And I know that sounds crazy. I get it. It sounds crazy. I'm going to prove it to you, though, in this video, okay? How about that? So it sounds so crazy. It's easier to make $1 million a month. It's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. It's easier to make $1 million in a week than it is to make $1 million in a month. And it's easier to make $1 million in a day than it is to make $1 million in a week. And it's easier to make $1 million in an hour than it is to make $1 million in a day. And I know for sure because I've done all of those multiple times. So I'm not talking from theory. I'm not regurgitating something I read in a book. I had this wake up in April of 1999. And I'm sure you guys probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? How many of you all read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? So a lot of you have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and when I read that book, it was like the lights came on. It was like for me, it was like the scales fell off of my eyes in the arena of wealth in a way that had never happened before. And the theme that I got from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if I were to sum up that book in a sentence, I would sum it up in this sentence. The thing you have to do to create wealth is to focus on creating income-producing assets. The reason broke people are broke is because they are their only income-producing asset. The reason rich people are rich is because we accumulate income-producing assets. In fact,